Welcome to Cooking with the Witchard Stovall Public Library. I'm Miss Ann, and today we're going to be making easy Easter hot cross buns. We'll need those in just a short while for Easter. And this is what you're going to need. So you're going to need a cup of warm water. I boiled my water and then just let it sit for a while. We're going to need 3 teaspoons of fast-rising yeast, 3 tablespoons of some sugar, white sugar, 1 large egg, 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of olive oil and just a pinch of salt, 2 teaspoons of ground cloves. Now my family will not eat. They don't like the taste of the cloves. I'm not putting cloves in, but if you do want to put cloves in yourself, it's 2 teaspoons. There's also 3 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. If you love cinnamon, you can always add a little more. There's a teaspoon of ground nutmeg and a cup of dried raisins. So that's the main ingredients, and then you've got ingredients for the cross. When you buy hot cross buns at the grocery store, a lot of times they will have a sweet cross on the top, so it's made with icing sugar. This is not made with icing sugar, this is the original. So you would use a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour for the cross and 12 teaspoons of water. And then we have a glaze. So for our glaze, we'll use 1/3 cup of water and 2 tablespoons of sugar. So those are our ingredients, and that should make 12 servings. Okay, so we're going to start putting everything together. The first thing we're going to do is to dust our pan that we're going to use. So just dust it lightly on the bottom and then set that aside. Then in a bowl you're going to combine the warm water and the 3 teaspoons of yeast. Mix it until it's completely dissolved, so no lumps. Then we add our egg and our 3 tablespoons of white sugar, and we're going to whisk it. Okay, no electric mixers, we're just going to do it by hand. So we've got the water, the yeast, the egg, and the sugar in here. Just until it's combined. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to add 1.5 cups of the flour. And it says to mix with a wooden spoon. I don't own a wooden spoon. If you have a wooden spoon, you can use it. I can either use my spatula or a regular spoon. I'm going to use a regular spoon just to get it going. I'll use the spatula just to tidy up the edge. And we do this just until there's a nice smooth batter. And it's supposed to be quite wet, so it's not a dry batter. This is quite a wet batter. Okay, so once it gets to be as mixed as we want it to be mixed, kind of like this, and it's wet because it's moving. Okay, we're going to set it aside with a cover on it. So I'm just going to grab a tea towel and cover it over there. And I'm going to let it rest for 30 minutes. It's always best to put it in a warm place. So what I did is I put my oven on at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's now at 200, so then I'm going to shut it off, and then I will put this in the oven, and that will help it rise. So I had transferred the dough into a different dish so I can put it in the oven, and it rose nicely. It's still very wet looking, and it looks kind of bubbly, and that's what it should look like. So now we're going to add our salt and our oil. So our salt is just a pinch. I'll just drizzle the salt around. And our olive oil, we just need a tablespoon. And drizzle it. And then I'm going to use my spatula and just fold it through. So after adding the oil and the salt, I added the last cup of flour, mixed it up, and made it into a ball. It does then state to put it into a large mixer stand and use your mixer with dough hooks. I don't have dough hooks, so I'm going to use just a regular mixer, and we'll see how it turns out. I added the last few ingredients, which are our spices. So I put in my cinnamon and my nutmeg. If you wanted to, you could put in the cloves. I avoided those, the ground cloves. And just mixed it up with my mixer on a very low setting. Wasn't too bad. It probably would have been better if you had dough hooks, but I think it worked. Okay, so smells good. It's still nice and squishy, but it's not wet. If it comes out a little bit wet, just add a little bit of flour to it. There are a lot of steps to this recipe. I think we're at step number 9. So what I did was, once I mixed everything together, I have my blue mat here, and I just sprinkled it with some flour. I put the ball onto the mat. At that point, I was sort of working in some of the raisins and just formed it into a ball. And then I got a dish. I put olive oil in the bottom lightly, and then just spread it all over up the sides just to make sure it doesn't stick. And then I put the ball in the bottom of it, put it in the oven. I had reheated the oven to 200, and when it was finished preheating, I turned the oven off and then put this dish in for half an hour, and that rose about double in size, I guess. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of this bowl again, put it over on that blue mat, and punch it down. So once you've actually finished punching the dough, you're actually trying to get the air out of it. That's what you're doing. So once you've finished punching it, we're going to divide it into 12 little balls. So I'll just take it here like this. And I did add a few more raisins as I was punching. So I'll cut it in half to get our 12 slices. Those two little escapey raisins back in. I didn't put all of the raisins in because it seemed like an awful lot, at least for my taste, because I'm not a raisin fan. Okay, so that's a pretty good size ball. Once I've done all 12 of them, we're going to take our pan, the dish that you're going to cook them in, and you're going to place them, probably 3, depending on the size of the pan that you use. I could probably get 3 across and 4 down, and that'll equal our 12. So there are my 12 balls of dough. They're sitting in the pan just barely touching, but we're not done yet. We're going to let them rise again. So this would be the 3rd rising. So I'm going to cover them again with a towel. I'm going to put my oven on again at 200. That will preheat, and as soon as it gets to 200, I'm going to shut it off. Put these inside the oven with the towel and wait for an hour until they rise again. While the buns were rising for their last hour, I made the paste that was to go on the top for the cross part, and it was like a half a cup of all-purpose flour with about 12 teaspoons of water. Mix it together to get that paste. And then the instructions stated to snip a corner off a sandwich bag, a plastic sandwich bag, and to put the paste in that sandwich bag, and then use that sort of as a piping tube. It didn't work well. Maybe for you it would work better, but for me it did not work well. So I chucked that idea. I have my own pastry bag and my own little fancy ends. And then this is sort of what it came out to be. Now the gob sections are because the first paste did not turn out well, and it just sort of blopped right over everything. So that's on that side. This side is my second attempt with the icing, which is a lot better. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the big blops down at this end, but the top end is much better. Okay, so I've got my oven on at 400. I'm going to bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes until it's golden brown. And then when they come out, I'm going to glaze the buns. So now they're ready to go into the oven. I have the oven on at 400. It's been preheated. They're going to cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. And when I bring them out, I will put on the glaze, the water sugar glaze.